Gotcha!
Released originally in 2007, after the initial popularity of the Ace Attorney trilogy, Apollo Justice was created by Capcom with the success of Phoenix Wright in mind. In fact, when Shu Takumi, the writer of the trilogy and Apollo Justice, was working on the game, he was presented by his superiors 2 plot points for AJ that he absolutely had to include. The first one was that Phoenix Wright had to be present. Of course, he was the image of the series, and taking him out of it could result in less interest and less sales. The second of these conditions, well, don't worry about it, I'll talk about it later. This restriction on creative freedom that was put on Takumi was then accompanied by the way that Takumi writes characters himself. As he says in his own words in an interview, "This is why it was so hard to write a completely new main character. The most natural parts of me had already all been used up by the Phoenix Wright character. So I tried to take everything about Phoenix and turn them upside down. With this great turnabout, I come up with Apollo, a character who is aggressive, passionate, and youthful." So, as you can see, the production of Apollo Justice was a bit of a challenge for Takumi, due to not only himself, but his superiors too. And that really shows in the reception that the game has when it's released. Unlike Trials and Tribulations or Investigations 1, which are generally regarded as a great game and an awful one respectively, Apollo Justice's complicated relationship with its predecessors has garnered it a more split reputation amongst fans. In fact, I've heard many argue that Apollo is a hit or miss game due to how it introduces a new character but continues to have Phoenix Wright as the main character. And to that, I have to say that this decision... Objection! The problem most people have when commenting on the game is mostly due to when and why the game exists. The fact that people start this game with the mindset that, oh, this is a whole new adventure, different from the trilogy, does not make the fact that the game is connected to it any worse. It just means the expectations were not the right ones. In fact, this whole rigmarole of Apollo Justice being a continuation of the trilogy games, and not just a completely unrelated story, can be seen even in little details. Of course, I can't just claim this and not substantiate it with evidence, so let's look at the first thing we hear after Turnabout Trump's intro. Take that! This song, New Beginnings, other than a pretty baller fucking song, it's also the first time we get to hear one of Apollo Justice's completely unique characteristics. Its music and the sound font it has. Indeed, completely different from the 8-bit style from the GBA games, and completely different from the more real instruments approach that the 3D games have. This game sits alone, in the DS, with instrumentation nothing quite like any of the other games in the series. However, that is not what I want to point out. No, what matters in the song to us is the name. Here you can see a connection being set. The game does not make Apollo Justice start on a clean slate, but instead, it mentions that it's a new beginning. Of course, this is Apollo Justice's beginning trial, but it's a new beginning for Phoenix Wright. A small detail, and yet it sets the whole scene. I personally think Apollo Justice is amazing at that. At foreshadowing and misdirection, it hints at things and distracts the audience, much like a magician would. When talking about Turnabout Trump, one of the things that has to be mentioned is its amazing subversion of expectation. This case takes the formula of the first case in Ace Attorney and completely turns it on its head. Starting with the way that it's organized. For the first time in the series, the first case in the game is divided into 2 parts, with a recess in the middle. Something that was somewhat unprecedented in earlier, far simpler first cases in the series. Not only that, but it also takes the roles of each character in the case and completely changes them. Let us analyze the first game in the series, shall we? In the first turnabout, you play as Phoenix Wright, a rookie defense attorney who decided to take on the case of his friend, Larry Butts, accused of murder. At his side is Mia Fey, a veteran attorney and the person that Phoenix Wright trusts and respects most as a lawyer. Once in the courtroom, Larry testifies and a witness is called, shady-looking Frank Shawit. After cross-examining him, you find out that this witness is, in fact, lying in an attempt to indict Larry and hide his own involvement in the murder. With this, the defense is able to prove the defendant's innocence and he is declared not guilty. Now, let us compare this short synopsis with that of Turnabout Trump. You play as Apollo Justice, a rookie defense attorney. This is where the similarities stop. His superior, Christoph Gavin, was asked by Phoenix Wright, his very good friend, to defend him in court. However, Phoenix specifies that he wants Apollo as his lead attorney. Apollo trusts both Gavin and Wright, though Wright is somewhat of a childhood hero to Apollo. Now, in the courtroom, after cross-examining Mr. Wright, the first witness is called, when Olga Orley. During her cross-examination, you find out that Miss Orley was lying, not because she was the killer, but because the victim, Shady Smith, had hit her in the neck. At this point, Phoenix Wright helps Apollo Justice with his logic, remembering that Christoph Gavin inexplicably claimed some things during the trial that could only be known by the killer. The conclusion is that Christoph Gavin was in fact the killer. The differences are astounding. When put into perspective, the plot of the two cases are in essence mirror opposites. The defendant accusing his own defense as the killer, the witness not being the killer for the first time, the person we're supposed to trust, our boss, being the killer. Indeed, quoting Takumi as I did earlier, "So I tried to take everything about Phoenix and turn them upside down." The sort of hidden symbolism, written in between the lines, and hidden meaning in seemingly useless things is what makes Apollo Justice such a fun game, at least for me, to play through over and over. As of writing this video, I played Apollo Justice a total of 4 times in the span of 3 years, and the more I play it, the more I like it. In fact, when I first played the game, I didn't really enjoy much of it. Most things and people always deserve second chances, regardless of who or what they are. In fact, in this case, and throughout the game, that is one of the topics that is most present throughout. Let's, for a moment, take a look at each and every defendant that Apollo defends in the game, shall we? Phoenix Wright, an ex-lawyer who was known to be a legend. Much like his story with poker, as a lawyer, he was undefeated for many years, until someone planted a cheat on him, and he was considered a criminal, caught with fabricated evidence. Waki Kitaki, the primogenital son of a famous mobster, as such, the rightful heir to the empire of crime that his father has created, although a self-admitted criminal, a very kind-hearted soul to his fiancée. Make Tobai. Maybe. The stupid kid with the glasses that no one likes. A mysterious boy who seemingly does not understand English, although we learn it later to be a lie, had committed the criminal act of smuggling illegal contraband into the country, and that's why he kept shush about what he knew of the case. And finally, Vera Mishram, a very shy and innocent-looking girl who knew very little about the outside world, but magic and a certain devil that roamed the roads of evil. That aside, she was an extremely talented criminal, specifically a forger of art and evidence. I don't think it takes a genius to connect the dots of what exactly I'm talking about here, does it? Indeed, every single one of these defendants was considered, or was in fact, a criminal. Something that is never mentioned, and yet it is staring us right in the face. The message that the truth does not rely on character. But how is this represented in Turnabout Trump? Well, of course, you must give people the chance to be good. But the opposite is also true. That you must accept that the person you're supposed to trust the most, Mr. Christoph Gavin, is in fact a criminal. Yes, hi, hello, it's me, to ruin the suspenseful ending I accidentally built. I'm just here to say the usual YouTube stuff is like follow me on YouTube. Follow me on like Twitch where I stream very frequently. Leave a like, subscribe, share the video. Do thing. Yeah. Bye.